Welcome to the podcast today, everyone. I've got a special treat. Maybe it's just for myself, but a special treat today, speaking with Jen Boyes-Manseau from Gatineau, Quebec. Jen is a Life-Cycle Celebrant there, and her celebrancy is called Life-Cycle Ceremony, and you can check that out. I will definitely leave her website in the show notes for you to have a closer look or to get in touch with Jen. And Jen is also on faculty at NTI, a Natural Transitions Insitute that does celebrancy training. I had the pleasure of taking a course with Jen in the fall called Rituals Across the Life Cycle, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I grew leaps and bounds, and I just enjoyed the coursework, and it just gave me a lift going into the winter and thinking about the kind of celebrancy that I wanted to be able to lean into in the early years here in Nelson, BC. And Jen was a big part of that, and I knew I always wanted to talk to her. I wanted to get her on the show for an episode, and so I was just part of a call with NTI talking to prospective students, like an open house format called Connecting with Your Celebrant Calling. And I said, there's the episode right there. In a way, I'm kind of finishing up season 1 of Here Comes the Celebrant podcast. And we're actually going to go back to the beginning and talk about what is a calling? How does one feel a sense of calling and think about celebrancy in that way, that it's a call? And Jen was so generous and excited about joining the conversation. So I'm really looking forward to where this conversation is going to lead us today. So welcome to the podcast, Jen.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. And I remember us saying at the end of the class last fall, the Celebratory Across the Life Cycle, we want to work together. How can we collaborate? So here we are.
Here's the first one.
Yes. So I'm absolutely tickled, and I've been listening, and I'm delighted to be here today to discuss this with you.
So the topic at hand for the series of open houses that NTI has been having for prospective students that you've been leading was connecting with your celebrant calling. Now, that's a language I thought we need to unpack a little bit. Some of it can come with, sort of religious connotations, and other people some little inkling that they might like to hear more. And so I thought the first question that we should deal with, and then we can pepper it with personal experiences, is what do we mean when we speak about a calling or feeling that a person might have a calling to this work that we do called celebrancy?
Well, I love the question, and I love this notion of unpacking. And I do it a lot when I'm working with clients, when I'm doing my work as a celebrant. Don't take words for granted. What does that word mean? Look it up, look at it from different angles. So I did that in preparation for our exchange, and the open house looked up what the definition of calling. And it's interesting because while there is, as you said, this notion of religiosity associated with it, that wasn't the first thing that came up. It was more this sense of a strong feeling of suitability for a particular career or occupation. And they didn't always say it was just tied to career. It's also a strong desire or leaning towards a course of action. So it's something that one is called to, that feels a pull to, that and feels an alignment to. And then another definition was a strong impulse towards a particular course of action, especially when accompanied by conviction of divine influence. So at NTI, and certainly in my practice and in my life, I'm always very cautious whenever talking about anything related to divine influences, because it doesn't resonate with everybody.
Right.
It does really resonate with some and really doesn't with others.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what came and what often comes for me, I find, is when I'm first waking up in the morning, something comes to me as I'm pondering something. So I had been thinking about this notion of calling, and what I woke up with was these arrows. So one arrow is this, one arrow is going down and within. There's
Okay.
one arrow, and one arrow is coming from the outside towards me. And then one arrow is kind of coming down this way. So let me explain. So in my experience of a calling, there is this inner component to it. It feels like there's a resonance. And for a long time, I've thought about this as each of us have like a tune, a song, a vibration that is ours. And it's a little diddly, it's a tune, and we forget it. And then, oh, it comes because we're doing something that resonates with us. We feel it. It's like, oh, that song, that song. Yes, that is my song. So there is this inner connection that we feel in a calling. My experience of calling has also been that it comes from the outside because it's what I experience in the world as, oh, that's not quite right. Or, gee, wouldn't it be? And in terms of this for myself, in my own story, I grew up Unitarian, and I grew up in the Unitarian movement when it was deeply steeped in humanism, rational humanism. And I was a spiritual from very early on, as a very spiritually inclined person. And I didn't call it that, but I always felt like this doesn't quite fit. This doesn't suit. I'm seeking and I'm not finding so I learned incredible things that served me as a celebrant from the Unitarian movement about inclusivity, about troubling language and making sure that it works for everybody, maybe using 2, 3 terms and all of that. But there was a lack. So there was always this hunger inside of me. So um, and what I was seeing was not what I wanted.
Mhm.
What I was experiencing was not what I wanted. And also, and I hear this in people who come and study at NTI all the time, they feel a sadness because they sense a potential for deeper, more meaningful experiences at transitional moments with ceremony, and that's not happening. So there's a lack. So some of the calling comes from gee, surely we could do better.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a bit of an inner and an outer. And
Mhm.
another part of it is this notion of being asked by people. And I'm sure others can relate to this. It's like a lot of people that are coming to study at NTI now have already been doing ceremony, and in various ways have been asked. And that was true for me as well. I was asked, Jen, would you do this? And I was like, who, me? I don't know how to do that. What is that? And then, okay. So it came at me from the outside, and that's a mystery. And it is, and it isn't, because they sensed in me my abilities, but they sensed also this searching nature that I had. And they thought that might serve, I guess. And that to me is related to how the call is served is to serve something bigger than myself, because I
Mhm.
feel like I'm called to this, but it's not just about me. It's like somehow I'm being asked to do this and I can do it. So I'm doing it. And it's deeply fulfilling. And
Mhm.
that's how it's related to something bigger for me.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so beautiful. And I can imagine that, back to your image of like that song, that tune, that chord, and that you were so curious at a younger age, steeped in Unitarian practice, that when you cultivate that from a younger age, you're attuned, you can hear things. And so, that people are reflecting back to you and asking you to do things. And there's that chord. It's just, I really love the image of that, the inner music or the inner song. As people give you feedback and as you grow, it can change and evolve over time. It may not be the exact same verses, and maybe the resonance of the chord has changed slightly, but the attunement is still there. And that's a healthy, necessary part of the journey as well. That the call isn't just this static one-time thing, but that it grows almost in relationship to you and with your community that you're serving over time.
Absolutely. I almost think of it as waves, and it could be sound waves, but in this case, I
Right.
happen to be visiting out in BC today. At this very day, I'm out in British Columbia and I'm by the ocean, so I'm thinking probably in terms of waves. But
Mm,
my waves, my own waves of calling, and it's that
mm,
evolutionary piece that you've just been referring
mm,
to.
mm.
So if the first wave was what I described a bit of, and there was other elements to it for sure,
Sure.
of this longing for more depth that I wasn't as I was growing up, I didn't feel the depth that I wanted, the
Mm,
meaning, the
mm,
deeper meaning. Why am I here? What are we doing here on this planet? How should we relate to one another? And always asking those questions. And not surprisingly, it took me into my career in theater. I trained in theater, and it was another experience of what I learned so many skills that served me in celebrancy, and I could list them all in my training and my being a professional theater artist for many many years. But it was clear to me that it was not theater for entertainment, it was not
mm,
theater for education, but it was theater for connection, for exploration, like an existential exploration of what is the meaning of life.
mm,
And it was also about communion, that somehow this brought people together to experience something together, which is absolutely what we do with ceremony. So I was interested in the more spiritual roots. I did, look into that
mhm.
in theater, but that was another. Okay, this isn't quite it.
Yeah.
What is quite it? And interestingly enough, the first ceremony that I remember being involved in actively was my own wedding with my lifelong partner back in 1989 in my parents' backyard. And we totally created the whole thing ourselves, and we were able to find a Unitarian
Oh.
minister who said, "Yes, I'll do whatever you want. I'll stand wherever you want. I'll do whatever you want." And of course, we were married in a circle. You're not going to be surprised to hear that. And I did notice that the Unitarian minister felt a bit nervous standing in the middle of the circle. It was a little bit out, it was like, "Who, how do I do this?" And I was feeling really nervous because I hadn't really realized how powerful it would feel to have all of your loved ones standing around you. It was like, whoa, that was a good idea, but it's another thing to step into that space. So it was a beginning of a possibility. But it was when I was asked, and that was the next wave for me, the wave of being asked by somebody, as I was referring to earlier in my experience of a calling.
Mm,
And I was asked by a friend that a new mom friend. We were pregnant together and we were in dance class together, and we were, well, how are we going to do this big life transition? And we're scared and all of that. And she said she was going to I was having my baby first. And then she said, "I want to do a mother blessing." And I said, "What's that?" I didn't, never heard of it. And she said, "Oh, let's look it up together. Let's explore it." So that was the first sense of, oh, this is interesting. This is something that resonates with me and that I'm being asked to do by someone else. And that opened up I would say my first chapter of Sea, and I would call that chapter now community celebrant, because it was really coming out of how I was engaged in the community and people
mm,
asking me to directly serve. So
mhm,
this was like baby blessings and entrustment for adoptions, and
mm,
it, it was all around birthing and having babies and creating families and community. And so that was what I was being asked to do. So I was doing it and
mhm.
loving it
Right.
and feeling in alignment.
And and the alignment, and you've used that word a couple of times, so I'm glad that you just made that transition for me. And that alignment is with and for individuals, couples in the community. In that, I liked when she asked you, and you were questioning, and she said, well, let's look it up together. Let's do this together. And that really is I think when I was looking at Celebrancy was a key aspect, that I'm not going to do this sort of privately and construct this ritual or this ceremony in this box and then come and apply it to this individual couple or situation, but that I'm each conversation, each opportunity to collaborate and work is going to be completely different. We're all going to bring certain things to the development and design of this ritual and ceremony. And that's also part of the attunement and the alignment that a celebrant can bring to sort of the discernment of trying to see what will work for what's being asked of you in this moment.
Beautifully said. And what comes to me as you say that is it's like it's both and. Both, I must bring my whole self to this collaboration, to this co-creative process. And I have to be totally open and listening to be receptive to everything that they're bringing. So I'm not there, but it's not about me. And that is truly co-creative. And as you were describing, I was thinking, yes, you say that so beautifully. And that is exactly why I love this work so much, it is that I learn and grow and deepen my own path with each client that I work with each family, with each community group that I work with, because it's not only going to be about what I think I know. It's going to be, well, I don't know everything. So let's explore this together.
Absolutely. And I think as celebrancy continues to grow, I mean, we see, there's research coming out of Pew Research just talking about, people across um, age groups or generations that are moving away from organized religion, but they're still looking. They still want to be able to celebrate these milestones. And as celebrancy continues to grow, I do believe that there's a role. The role is what people are also looking for, to be able to co-create their wedding, their baby welcoming, the way that we're able to journey with a family in a short, intensive period of time to get ready for a celebration of life. I do believe that we bring something to those moments that people are looking for.
Absolutely. I think of two other waves that I experienced of
Mm.
this calling. And one was when I was, so after being a ceremony, a community celebrant for a number of years, I was asked to be a chaplain for the Unitarian Fellowship on Vancouver Island. And at that point, this is in the 90s, their chaplains were who was doing weddings and funerals and welcomings for babies. And again, I had the same reaction. It was like, but I don't have gray hair and I'm not a man. Can I do this? So, and that's only in the 90s, right? So, and this is in British Columbia, which I think of as, quite progressive. And I was, even then, I was like, really? Can I do this? And I wanted to share that because now that I am called to serve in Gatineau, Quebec, it is a really different culture. It is a really different community to serve. So there, a lot of my foundational work happened in British Columbia, where there was more of a receptivity and more people saying, I want this. I want that person. Like you were saying, I want to work with you. I want to collaborate with you. I know I want this. Less people have figured that out. They know what they don't want.
Mm.
They don't yet know what is possible in Quebec. And there was a moment where I think I referred to this earlier. It was like a crossroads moment. My life is, there's chapters lived in BC and lived in Quebec. So that one of those moments, decision points, we're going to move back. We're going to move back to Quebec. So huge crossroads in terms of work, in terms of family, in terms of everything, because you've just moved across the
Yeah,
continent. It's
yeah.
huge, right? It's huge. And I went to get my hair cut and the hairdresser was a lovely woman, and we were chatting away. I love that about hairdressers. They're so good at conversation. It's a part of their gig.
It
And so
is.
she's chatting away and she's excited because she's going out to Saskatchewan to a wedding and she's going to be in the wedding party. But she says, I see this role that I'm going to be stepping into as really important because I'm not just going to wear a pretty dress on the day. I see that I am stepping up to to be there for this couple as they go forward on their journey. And
Wow.
I said, wow, that really resonates. You know how I'm talking about I want to go deeper. So
Yeah.
there's this person who gets it. It's like we think it's just the surface of what it looks like a wedding, but she already has understands. Oh no, it evokes something much deeper. So this started out. So then I went on and on and on about all how excited I was about ceremony and the potential of ceremony and ritual and all of that. And she listened. And then when I went to pay, I said, thank you so much. You have just helped me make a decision, a big decision. She said, really? What? Pray tell what? And I said, well, I really feel like now I need to bring Celebrancy into the front and center. It's been there. It's always there. It's always been there. And now, and I don't know at that point, I didn't know more what that meant, but I need to bring it front and center was the
Mm.
feeling. And she was delighted. And I was so grateful. It's again, that co-creative kind of exchanges that we love in Celebrancy. And I reached out then did my research and I found, somebody, who had trained with CFNI and was so warmly welcomed. Sure, we're getting together for lunch next week. Come and join us for lunch. Absolutely. Yeah, you already know all about this, so come on along. And there was such a welcome. And then I met, 5 people, and they were all having lunch together as a support to each other. And each of them had their own practices and their own perspectives, and I thought that was really cool. But and everything about it just said a big screaming yes. And then I found out that it would be possible to do weddings because I had given up my designation as a Unitarian chaplain. And so how can I do weddings? And then I found out, okay, Alberta, BC, Alberta, Quebec, and Ontario. And I thought, okay, let's do it. So then weddings and funerals and healings and life transitions and then ceremonies across the life cycle. Off I went. So it was, to me, it was really a turning point of that feeling that, oh yes, thank you. That is important to me. That does resonate. And I do want. And that was a moment where I had to take steps that were scary. Um, and, that I had hesitation about. Can I forward this? What is this all about? But I knew that I was moving from British Columbia to Quebec. And I knew that I would no longer be immersed in a community that knew me and said, oh, Jen, she's the one to call if you want a ceremony. Community ceremony, this organization is closing, and it was really important to the women who were seeking for employment. Get Jen in, she'll do something.
Mhm.
People just knew me, and I was going to be moving somewhere where people didn't know me. And it was it's a culture that is dear to my heart, but I'm not born and bred Quebecois.
Yeah.
So I sensed that I needed to be part of a tribe. I needed to have colleagues. I needed to be supported. I need to be able to legitimize what I was doing, and say, yes, this is not just me, because I think it's really important and it feels good to me and I align with it and I can do it, but others are doing it too. And so that was just a really, a big turning point in terms of bringing it front and center.
That's your hero's journey at that moment. You were in the forest at this crossroads, and it's not every day that somebody could say their hairdresser was the person in that conversation that really shifted you through to looking at making a decision, and that's incredible.
Mm. I think from the get go, when I say I really love this work and I'm really called to it, I think it's I just really see time and time again how rituals and ceremonies, you have said and written, can hold immense emotional power, and how if they are truly personalized, they can really, it's such important work for those individuals and for the community. And so I've been thinking about that. And for me, and this is also when I'm an instructor at NTI, again, I like to trouble this notion of personalization. And I
Yes.
struggle a bit with personalization
Hmm.
because it can err towards being, it's all about me. It's me. It's my story. It's me, me, me. And what I see is it's not. If it is a good art, and it's the art of ceremony and the art of ritual, it is extremely specific, extremely personalized, one could say. And
Hmm.
yet that in that specificity, it touches on the universal. So it transcends the personal. And then it brings everybody in. So if it's vague and sort of cliche, it doesn't bring anybody in. But if it's specific to an individual, but then I say that, but, and this is where I'm always really looking when I'm creating ceremony with people and ritual, is I'm listening for those resonants that do speak to something that is true for our human journey. So this is a particular expression of it, but it has resonance, that transcends that individual. And then that means other people are really brought in who are participating in the ceremony. So that's just that for me, that's true of good ceremony and of good ritual, that it's truly personalized and touches on something very universal and therefore brings everyone in.
And that's key. When anybody listening that's still a little bit unclear, you can at least sort of see yourself in a ceremony of some sort, let's say a wedding, and you're sitting there and you're watching a wedding being performed. Very different than what you're talking about, than when we can lift it from the specific to the universal. It includes everyone that has gathered for that ceremony, and they bring their own story. They will now have their own experience. It's a very kind of kinetic energy then that can be tapped into when we as celebrants are working with the couple or the individual or the family, are able to move it then to the universal and pull everyone in that room into the journey and the ritual that is occurring.
Beautiful. Well said. And for me, I think one of my great passions is ritual. And why is that? It's because there are celebrants that aren't as ritual focused,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
others that are more. And there are clients who don't want that, and there are people that do. And so it's not a must, but it's the beyond wordsness of rituals that for me can hold a multiplicity of meaning, and then therefore allows different access points. So people can, and I'll give you, I was thinking of an example,
Please. Yeah.
so, so my dear spiritual mentor and journey companion, her name is Nina. Sometimes I will find something that just really, I think, oh, this is Nina. I want to share this with Nina. And it'll be, it might be something from nature. It might be, and to me, I can see the meaning in it. And almost every time when I give it to her, she'll turn it upside down and she'll find some other meaning. And I'll think, my goodness, I never even saw that. I didn't even look at the back of it. It's so true. Like that's a whole other thing. So a good, like, aha moment for me of, right, people see things differently. And we know that rationally, but we kind of forget it. And the other story that I love to share about this is actually back to my wedding. So we were married in a circle, and then we went to the West Coast and we found these little round stones, and we found enough of them that it's probably not appropriate to remove stones now, but this is back in 1989 when we didn't know better. But we took some of these little round stones to gift them to the people who couldn't come from Eastern Canada. So we held another celebration. We didn't redo the ceremony. We didn't do a whole ceremony, but I talked through, this is what we did, so that they had a sense of what it was and experienced it. But when they came in the door, they could choose a stone and they didn't know why. And we're talking about doing this in the late 80s in Quebec. So this is a bit weird. What are we doing with rocks, and what's going on here? So people are not sure. And then there's that aha moment when I say, and you were missing in the circle. So I wanted to bring back a piece of the West Coast so that that you were present in that circle. And you hear oh, but that's not the point I wanted to make. The point I wanted to make was, fast forward now a good year or two later, and we're visiting Tante Françoise, and Tante Françoise is a nun. And so we're visiting her in the convent. And she goes to her purse and she opens it up and she pulls out the stone and she says, I love this stone. J'aime tellement cette pierre. And she goes on to explain that it speaks of who we are to her. It reminds her of us, but it also reminds her of a very important and important thing in the Bible. There was a reading in the Bible, and I don't even know, I can't tell you what that reading was because she actually didn't share it with us. Okay. Point being, symbols can hold all of that. So it is that, and it is also what she brings to it. So
the different angles and entry points.
Yes. So we don't need, good ritual does have just the right amount of words and just the right words crafted to set the scene and to bring people in and to make them understand and to make the meaning of it, to help them with the meaning of it, but leaves not too many words so that we're left with leaving space for people to make their own meaning. And we teach that beautifully in the NTI training,
absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The elements and all of that. Yeah. So that's for me, that's what I love about this work, and how creative it is and how inclusive it is, and how it holds something that we can't put into words. And good ceremony to me has words, but it also holds something that we can hardly even put into words.
And when you try, it's just coming from your particular experience or perspective. And somebody else will have a different entry point. For some, I could see there would be some discomfort. And for others, if that is enlivening for you, if there's some excitement, if there's some energy in that, go with it.
What I have found, it absolutely is about them telling their story and helping them to find and articulate what that is, what this means to them, what this life transitional moment means to them. And then also, this is the part that I bring, and that then they appreciate that they didn't maybe even know what it says about our human journey. And yes. What I find is when I'm working with someone who's saying, oh, I don't want to make it all about me, particularly in the realm of Celebrancy across the life cycle, when you're working with someone who it's trickier. And even with weddings and funerals, people it's like, oh, I don't want to get up there. I don't want it to be all about me. It's not only about you. You are helping us all by sharing your journey, because it's our journey, and so I definitely encourage that. It also, I see, helps reconcile differences. And because you were saying some people might be, well, this feels too weird, and somebody else might say, yes, I'm total buy-in. And I find a lot in celebrations of life, very often one member of the family is all in, and they're the person that's reached out for me. They found my website. They resonate. It's like, yes, you're the one, but we got to check with the siblings, or we got to check with this sibling. And this sibling is like, who are you and what the heck are you about? you know, and so then there needs to be an adjustment. And I've,
Mhm.
in the extreme, they don't even want to be in the same room together. I've worked with brother and sister like that.
Mhm.
Or and they don't want to meet as a family in a family interview situation, but they're very respectful and want to respect each other's points of views, but they don't know how to do that. It's make it have resonance for, and there's always the concern for that people will have for who else is going to be coming, and how will it be for them. So it's not only about the people that you're working with directly. And the example most recently that I think of was a brother and sister uh, whose mother had passed away, and uh, there was some really tricky family dynamics. He inherited the farm, and she didn't, and so there was some really tricky dynamics. And this was coming out gradually, but one real sticky point was that she worked for the federal government and was very aware of this whole movement of a truth and reconciliation. And she felt very strongly. She said, my mom wouldn't have wanted this, but I feel it's important that we do that there is a land acknowledgement.
Okay.
And when I checked in with the brother, I could tell he was squirmy about it. And
Okay.
um, so he said, uh, just trying to get clear here, was this Shannon or was this you? Like, where is this coming from? Is this you imposing this on us, or has it come from her? And I said, oh no, yes, it's come from Shannon, and she doesn't want to impose, but this is the reasons she's giving of why she feels it's important. Long story short, found a way to contextualize that. It couldn't have been more appropriate because we were right on the land on the farm, and they had a family cemetery right there. And the mom's ashes were going in the land. So this is the land she'd lived on. And the
Wow.
knowledge keepers that she works with had said it makes total sense that a family member would speak the land acknowledgement. And and this part actually came spontaneously during that part of the ceremony, and I was able to say yes. And we've been talking a bit about the fact that here we are now in this. There's a wish for a renewal in this new generation of what is. So it's what is coming forward, and part of that we know is this acknowledgement of truth and reconciliation and land. And in that context, Shannon wants to share. So there was and the words, I'm not saying them very well right now, but they just came and set it up. And everybody who was there, you feel the nods when there's a resonance,
Yeah.
feels like, yes. And the brother was comfortable with it. It was like, okay, this feels okay. So that's an example for me recently that I experienced of how we can serve to help reconcile differences, hold space for both and in a way,
Mhm. Mhm.
rather than, we're not there to make them kiss and make up. It's not about that, but it's about honoring and processing
Mhm.
both views.
Yeah, beautiful. And just so much work being done there and trying to sort of discern each conversation. And that didn't get solved or it didn't move to where you got it in one day. And that's why the training is so important. I know for myself, I worked in chaplaincy, high school chaplaincy in Ontario for on and off for 28 years with an educational break right in the middle. And, the training that I received through first CFNI, the Celebrant Foundation and Institute, and now NTI, the Natural Transitions Institute, has been just invaluable. Someone like myself coming with a specific skill set, but the training and confidence that I have grown in through the training has been immeasurable, especially trying like this, the balance and the listening and the attunement between the brother and sister, and trying to find out more and more information with a family land, and just guiding people in and just seeing where it goes, takes a level of skill that NTI is promises to provide. And a recent student, I can confirm that indeed it does. And I had grown in confidence very, very quickly as a result. So I'm really glad that you used that recent anecdotal story to bring us to the point of the training and the certification that really is invaluable. We are going to encounter opportunities like these in very emotionally charged situations, and the work and the expertise that takes to just guide the plane in. And we're not sure what runway it's going to land on. We're just going to guide it. We're going to watch. We're going to move in that direction with them. And it takes great care and expertise to be able to do that.
Well, and I so resonate with what you're saying because, like you, I had been working in this way, in this, towards celebrancy for some time before coming to the training. And I too got so much out of it. And for me, there's about three different ways. One is that, and probably more, but I think right away of three ways. One is the fact that we're learning in a collective learning environment with people with different backgrounds. So already it's training us to listen to people who are different than us and open our hearts to people that are different than us, and not say, I like that or I don't like that. We do away with the likes and dislikes. It's not about whether you like or dislike it. It's like, I appreciate that. Oh, that's interesting. I'm curious about that. Tell me more. Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Like my Nina turning the objects upside down. Really? You saw it like that. So that's one thing that I really, really appreciated. The other, and continue to appreciate, it's why I'm so honored and like love, facilitating as a learning facilitator in this context. So, and the other two are um, this. That when you're working, you just talk so beautifully, Leanne, about working in these very emotionally charged situations and how do you work through that? And for me, what I what I what I needed, and I didn't know I needed until I took the training, is I really needed to understand the building blocks. I needed to understand the theory. I needed to really understand those bones. So I am not their therapist. I am not there to make their families better. I'm not even their grieving coach. I'm not their but I'm tasked with this, and I know what the parameters of that are, and I know how to help people with that framework. Like I'm very versed in the bones of, and we talk about it in fundamentals, and then we apply it in the certifications. So that's one aspect of it, but it's also that how do we do that with people? And that's probably the biggest one, because I mentioned to you that I was already doing celebrancy work, and it was very personalized. So then why did I need to come to NTI, or why did I need to come to CFNI? But I didn't know how to personalize.
Mm.
And I keep wanting to do this with personalized, because how I feel about
Yes.
personalization. So, um, and so you learn the theory, but then you learn how to apply. And what is this co-creative, collaborative process that we do with people? And concretely, how do we do it? And it's built on years of experience. So CFNI started over 20 years ago, and the curriculum is steeped in all of those experiences by life cycle celebrants who have done this, and a method, an approach, a way. And of course, I wouldn't be able to do it if it was a method that you have to do it this way, like a franchise. It's not about that at all. You have
No.
your own style, you adapt it, but it is very helpful tools of how then I can work with this couple, this brother and sister, and take them through a process to this place where they feel like they've both been heard and both of their needs are being honored, and both feel like they're honoring their mother. When people graduate, they're asked, what's your niche? who are you? Do you want to serve? And you have to think about, now we have this wonderful project that I introduced um, a few years ago, of getting people to conceive of a community ceremony that they would want to offer in their own community. So it's very real. Like, look out there and what do you want to do really in your community, and think that one through, and get and we'll work on it together. And it was over and over again, people say, "Well, I don't quite know yet," or "I think this and I think that," or "Now I see so many possibilities and I don't even know now." And now I've had celebrants across a life cycle. They get their mind blown. So what I thought recently to share with people when they say that is, it's okay. Over time, you will get to know your niche, because those are the people that are going to gravitate to you. And I recently
Yes.
was telling I have one daughter, I have two daughters, and they're both very, very interested in what I'm doing. And we have incredible exchanges. One has just gone back to do her master's in family and couples therapy. And over, she keeps saying, "I can't believe how similar this is to the work that I'm doing, Mom."
Hmm.
And similar in terms of listening. It's about their process. It's not the same in terms of I'm trying to help them repair their relationship.
Right.
But the other daughter is very insightful, Madeleine, and she's listening to me and she says, "Oh, there you go, Mom. There's your niche." And I said, "Wow, it's so true. It's my niche has found me." And so
Right.
I went back to, I knew who my niche was when I was in BC, because it was
Mm.
my community that I was serving, and they were the people, they were around me. And then it was stretched a bit broader when I became a chaplain for UFON, because then these were people that maybe didn't have the same exact life experience as me.
Mm-hmm.
But now in Quebec, it's like, who am I serving? And it's come to me, and now I could say, I get a sense of what my niche is, but it took a while. It took a few years.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I wanted to share is a gratitude to you, Leanne, for inviting me on to this podcast, because a lot of this work that we do, it's very draining and very hard. Um, and we know that. We know, oh, we self-care, we need to look after ourselves, and we can't
Mm-hmm.
leave if the well is dry, and how do we fill the well? And we know that. And I'm still caught sometimes. Just before I came out to BC, I was working with a Franco-Ontarian family, and I did my family interview with them. And it was so challenging because they were speaking in very fast in French, which
Okay.
I don't have a problem understanding French, but it was their French. And so I was like, talk about, you feel
Yeah,
like
it's
you're about
exhausting.
big and your
Mm.
heart is about this big, and you're just
Yeah.
trying to take it all in, and you're scribbling,
Yeah.
scribbling, scribbling. And then I really wanted to do something with my family afterwards. I wanted to go to this concert somebody we knew was playing. And I went and I was like, I cannot be here. I am
I
totally,
cannot be here.
even if it's something I want to do, I cannot. I have to leave. I am absolutely drained.
Like a sponge, just
Wrung out.
rinsed right out. Yeah.
Totally, totally. So it is, yeah, it is challenging work for sure. And I
Mhm.
think that's another reason for a need for support. And Laurel Hubbard, who just came through the Celebratory across a life cycle, she said, so we live in the same area. She's in Ottawa. I'm right across the river in Gatineau. She said, so going forward, like, I would love to, like, I could be your anchor. Like I could just, and I said, tell me more about that term. Like, I like that
Yeah.
idea.
Uh-huh.
She said, I could be your anchor. She said, I've been creating ceremony, but I always do it with my sister because I feel like I need somebody there to anchor me. And I thought,
Oh,
oh, that's
beautiful.
really interesting. And so she said, if you're doing something and you want me to be there, I could just come and be your anchor. And then another life cycle celebrant who's also who's actually right in Gatineau. She's become a core member of my sustenance ceremony practice, and we're
Nice.
collaborating all the time. So there is a need for support. And so I have and continue to find that in NTI, in this celebrancy
Beautiful.
movement we're a part of. Getting referrals. When I first arrived back east, I was getting referrals. Now I'm starting to make referrals.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so it's quite beautiful. And being inspired by others, like that is a huge value of this celebrancy community. And I just want to say that it can be really tricky.
Mm,
We want it to be supportive, constructive, and it can sometimes not be that.
mm,
And I so appreciate all of the thinking and care that has gone into making this celebrancy movement as supportive and constructive as it can be. Because we're different than each other. And I just spent time with my sister, and she said, and I can't tell you where she got this from. Maybe it's her, because she's brilliant. Comparison is violence. And I thought, whoa, that's okay. Tell me a bit more, Karen. Her
that's
name is Karen.
powerful.
But it really, when you think about it, it's not serving anybody, comparison.
No.
So we can be together, but how can we be together and support each other in our own unique ways of being life cycle celebrants and serving our own unique communities? And
Hmm.
even if we're living in the same town, we're probably serving different communities within that. So, it reminds me of, so this is why I always work with the Liz Learman's critical response process.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
that I feel really strongly is important, that when we're giving feedback to people on their ceremonies, we're doing it with curiosity and asking
Hmm.
what they want feedback on. We're not saying, oh, well, I would have done it differently, or listen to what all the great things I've done, that we really are nurturing each other into being better and better celebrants, because we keep growing and learning. And it makes me think of, it's not in the curriculum anymore, but there was this interview between Ronald Grimes and Charlotte Hewlett, who's the founder of
Hmm.
CFNI, one of the
Yeah.
founding members. And it was almost embarrassing to watch, because Charlotte was just her wonderful, effusive, uh, out there person. And Grimes is being the academic. He's being very, and at one point in the interview, he says basically, yeah, okay, I get it. You're great. You're wonderful. What you're doing is wonderful. It's all wonderful. But what are you doing to ensure that there's a level of professionalism? What are you doing to ensure that what you're doing is truly on the mark? I'm not saying his exact words, but you're
Right.
getting the,
Yeah. You're getting the tone. Yes.
whoa. And she was like scrambling didn't quite know how to respond to that. But,
Yeah.
but it stayed with me,
Mm.
because if we are truly, like I told you in my story, moving it front and center in our lives and really want to offer this to others and want to do it professionally, whether it is a profession, whether we see it as a career or a calling or a vocation or something we just love to do, we are doing it at a level of professionalism. And in order to do that, we need to be open to peer review. We need to be
Absolutely.
open to, you don't get accolades on an article that just gets published unless it's a peer reviewed
Hmm.
article in the academic world, in the arts world. You won't get funding unless you go through, and it's peers who are going to assess whether you get the funding or not. So it is a necessary thing, but it's been one of my life missions is to create containers where people feel safe to share their work in. And I did this for years in theater as a dramaturg. It's like midwifing the playwright. It's like helping the playwright birth their
Mm.
play. And, you've got all these actors who've got their opinions, and then my character should say this and na, na, na. And so that, I feel that's really important. And I think that is woven now into the curriculum in NTI, that notion of let's really be supportive of each other. And that can hopefully carry on then. And you find the ones that you really resonate with.
I said this in my my feedback, and I stand by it. I've been to grad school. Many people have. That can be trauma inducing just mentioning that.
Oh, yes.
I've never received such careful, thoughtful, clear feedback than I did from you taking that course. So I thank you for that, and I'm sure other students can um, would agree with me in the kind of feedback that you give, that is encouraging and encourages the student taking the course, even if you're a veteran and you want to expand your celebrancy in a certain way. This is a real adult education, in a new form that I found extremely edifying and educational and positive and encouraging. I think this is a good note to end on. Jen, you and I could talk for 5 hours, have
Oh,
our own YouTube channel, and just continue to chat. So there's going to be a couple of links below in the show notes to Jen's website, to MTI, in case anyone is interested. The fundamentals course starts shortly in August with Lenny Scoville. You don't want to miss that. Lenny was my instructor. I thoroughly enjoyed my fundamentals course. And then the certifications are after the Canadian Thanksgiving. Jen, thanks so much for joining me today and giving of your time, traveling out here to beautiful BC to visit friends and family, and taking your time to reflect on and get ready for this podcast interview. I'm just really thrilled that you were able to join with me today, and also just where we went in the conversation was really incredible. Thanks so much.
thank you, Leanne.